Hi everyone, it's Christine here from Ever After Paper Crafts, and today I am going to do a quick video on a slightly different way to create a super fun galaxy background on your card. I am using the Upon a Star stamp set from Lawn Fawn. And if you'll recall, if you've been a subscriber of my channel for a little while now, I fairly recently did another card using this stamp set, and I showed you how to do a simple galaxy background. This time around, I wanted to have the whole thing watercolored, including the base, and I also wanted to do kind of a Northern Lights theme, kind of with a few different colors streaming throughout the sky to make it a little bit more dramatic. Plus, I just quite frankly can't get enough of this adorable Lawn Fawn stamp set. So today I'm just going to focus on the painting of the background. And at the end I will talk you through how I put the card together, but I'm not going to do that on the video simply because I've already done a video on how I colored the little bunny and with my zigs and that sort of thing. So I'll link to that video in the description box of this video below. But I did use the same color on the bunny here and this little bunny as I did on the bunny in the original card. So I'm just going to focus again on how I watercolored this whole scene, and I hope that you enjoy it and give it a try. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is pull over our watercolor paints, and I am using the 36 pack of Gansai Tambi watercolor paints. I love this palette. It's right now only $26 for this whole palette on Amazon.com. So I encourage you to check it out if you'd like to give this technique a try. These paints are fabulous for watercoloring on your cards. So I also have this board that I tend to almost always use when I do watercoloring. You can use a cutting board, you can use anything hard, and then tape your watercolor paper down with painter's tape. The reason for doing this, it's definitely not a requirement, but I do it simply because if I don't, I find that even though I'm using watercolor paper that's meant for water, it's still paper, so it will still warp. And this will eliminate, or at the very least lessen, the warping that you get when watercoloring on your paper. As far as the paper goes, I am using Gansai XL watercolor paper. It comes in a pack like this. And forgive the scraps I have kind of sticking out. I use every piece of my watercolor paper if I can. It's Gansai XL watercolor paper. This is a 30 pack. I got this on Amazon. You can get these at Michael's in different sizes, and you can get them at Walmart. You can get it through Amazon. It's very inexpensive, but it is great in my opinion. So this is what I tend to use when watercoloring. And then finally, I wanted to tell you how I decide how I'm going to cut my paper. As you'll see in the finished card, I did decide to do a full-size A2 card front. So this piece of watercolor paper is 5.5 by 4 1/4. Even if I was going to cut this down though, I would still initially plan on using the whole thing. And by doing that, I then want to cut this to accommodate for the tape an inch bigger on each side. So this piece of paper that I have taped down is 6.5 by 5 1/4. The only other things you're going to need is a cup of water and a paintbrush. You do not need a fancy paintbrush for this technique. However, I love the silver round paintbrushes. And this one is a size 8, and I really love these, so this is what I'll be using. In my other video I used this one, which is a flat, and you'll see me use this brush at the very beginning here for this video as well. I'm going to kind of go between these two brushes. And this one I just got at Michael's, and it's a Grumbacher brush, 1/2 inch. But any type of brush that has this flat end to it will help you in creating any type of landscape or even your sky. It's just a great brush. I really love it. So let's go ahead and get started, and I am going to dip my paintbrush in some water, clean water here, and I'm just going to lightly wet my paper. Very lightly. You don't need to put a whole gob of water on this for this technique. Now if you were going to do a fun just background kind of impressionist-like type of background, which I will be doing in another video soon, you would want to get this a little bit wetter. But for this technique, that's not required. Now, for this technique, and this is something that I had to really work hard on, and I apologize for all the talking in this video, I just want to share some things that I've learned as we're going along here that hopefully will help you in the process. I have found that it helps if you just kind of lose that idea of being in control. I know when we're coloring our images with our zig markers or our Copic markers or watercolor pencils, anything, we like to be in control and know exactly where the color is going to go. Watercoloring is exactly the opposite. You're never going to get two pieces to really look identical, and that's the point. So you kind of want it to look like a hot mess before you finish it up. So don't worry if you're doing this and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this looks horrible. It's kind of supposed to, so don't worry about that. And that's something I really struggled with at the beginning. Now, if you'll notice in these Gansai Tambi watercolor paints, they're not named. They're just numbered. The name is in Japanese. So I will call out the number as I go and use them. So I'm first going to put down a blue, and I'm going to use number 64, which is just a standard kind of blue color. And I'm just going to kind of go around. I'm going to put some there. I'm going to put some here and maybe here-ish. Now, one thing that I forgot to do, because I was just so excited to get started on this, I forgot to map out where my little grass is going to be. So let's do that. That's why I left this whole space down here blank. So for that, I am going to take number 55, which is a green, and I'm going to just make a little tiny hill, and we're just going to go like that. And that's what this type of brush is really good for. It allows you to kind of map that out and giving it a little bit of a hillside. And I'm just going to kind of slowly bring this paint down. Now we want to create different colors, kind of layer different colors on top of each other, both for the sky and for the ground, so we get some layering of color. So the last thing you're going to want to have handy is some type of drying tool. I'm just using my heat gun, and I'm going to quickly dry the color that I've already laid down. This not only helps your project go fast, but more importantly, you don't have to wait for the colors to dry to put color on top of each other. Because if you do it when it's still wet, it's going to blend together and give you kind of a muddy look. I'm going to go into a slightly darker green now, and this is number 56. And I'm going to put that kind of on top of this little hill that we've created. And just kind of blend that down. And then I'm going to, of course, in between colors, I'm of course cleaning my brush in my cup of water. So now we're just going to dry this, and now I'm going to go back in with the first green color that we laid down, which was the number 55, and I'm just going to lay this kind of down to fill in the bottom here. And it doesn't look like a whole lot of difference in the colors right now, but once it completely dries, you definitely are going to see some difference. And we're going to add some shadows on this as well at the end of the project. And I'll show you what I mean in just a moment on the finished card. But I really like how this paint just kind of lets you play with it, really. It's a very kind of chalky textured watercolor paint. And it really does let you play with it. It's very forgiving. I'm now just taking a clean brush and coming in. This is a trick that I kind of learned just by practicing, really. And it's going to kind of blend the lines out. And look at that. You now have a really pretty dark at the top, kind of blending down to lighter as it gets closer to the viewer, which is what I was going for. So I'm going to dry this with my heat tool here. And then we're going to move back up to the sky. And let me show you the finished card for a moment. See how here I've done this swoop of paint at the bottom for a shadow for the bunnies to sit on? We're going to do that at the end once I know that this is good and dry. Alright, so now I'm going to kind of bring over this number 8 size brush as well. And I'm just going to go back and forth between the two brushes. You do not have to do this whatsoever. I just kind of find that sometimes I just like to play around, and I want to show you how you can do it with both types of brushes. So we have this blue down. I'm going to go into my favorite blue now, which is number 63, and I'm actually almost out of this, and I didn't want to buy the whole palette again, so I have found a couple stores where you can buy just one color, and it's only like $3 for one color. So I'm going to have to go do that to replenish this, because I use this color on my ocean scenes, on my sky scenes, on everything. I love this pretty blue color. So I'm just kind of filling in some of the white spaces with this pretty blue color. And that's good for now. Now I'm going to take my other brush, simply because it's clean, it's been sitting in the water, and I'm going to do a darker blue. I'm going to do number 66. This is a very dark, dark blue. And we're going to put this here and kind of around the corners a little bit. Just sort of like so. And I'm telling you, hot mess, right? This is looking ridiculously awful. But bear with me here and you will see the end result is gonna look fabulous. Don't be afraid when it starts looking disgusting or awful. Don't throw it away. Keep going, and I promise you, you will be happy with what you have at the end. Now we need some bright colors. We need some purple. So we are gonna put, let me see, I want number 38 here-ish. And see how I'm able to put it on top of those other colors and it's not turning, you know, a brown or mixing with that blue or turning a brown or a mud color. Mud, that's what I was looking for. That's what you want, and that's why it helps to dry. So now I'm going in with 138, which is another color of purple. It's slightly lighter, and we're just kind of filling in around here. Okay, now we want to dry that. Because remember, I'm trying to go with sort of a Northern Lights kind of look. Northern Lights kind of look, where you have lots of different colors kind of streaking through your sky. So that means we're going to need a green. So I'm going to go with number 52. It's a really pretty green. And I'm going to put that here. And see how I'm just slightly covering up some of that blue that I laid down. It's okay. It's okay, because we've dried it and it's not going to interact too much with it. And it's going to look really pretty. I also want just a little bit of like a pinkish red in my sky as well. So I'm going to go up to number 36 and we're just going to put a little bit of that right there. You don't want too much, not too much. Okay, and there we go. So let's go ahead and dry all of this. And go ahead and chase those water droplets. If you have some spots that are especially wet, chase the water droplets around, maybe lift your board up. Because that's fun. That's what gives it like a really drippy, kind of fun, watercolory look. So don't be afraid to do that. All right. Here we go. All right. So now we want to, now near the horizon, it's going to be dark where the bunnies are going to be sitting. It's going to be kind of the darkest there. So I'm going to take that dark blue again, the darkest color, which is number 66, and I'm just going to kind of run it like so, so it kind of meets that horizon. All right, just like that. And now I'm going to take my other brush, which has been sitting in the water and it's clean, and we're just going to kind of blend that just a little bit better. There we go. And now I'm going to take some more of the purple, my number 38 purple, and just kind of lay that there. And I want to take a little bit more of the other, the slightly lighter purple, which is 139, and lay that in there. And then finally, I want to take my favorite blue, which is this number 36, and pull that into this area here. All right, so now let's heat all this together here. Let's see what we get. All we're doing is drying all this together here so we can go back and add some more color on top. Alright, so I'm just sort of quickly doing this. You'll want to make sure it's pretty dry when you're doing it at home on your own. But because I don't want you guys sitting here all day watching me dry stuff, I'm going to try to do it a little bit quickly. Okay, let's go ahead back into the number 66, which is that darker blue, and I'm just going to kind of re-go around the lines and kind of in between. I'm just kind of, at this point, filling in some of the white spots that have been left behind with this dark color. Now, we don't want to lighten up, we don't want to darken up some of these lighter parts, because that's what's going to give us kind of this variety in our sky. So I'm just kind of going around some of these darker spots just to highlight and cover up any white space that may exist. And again, this is looking ridiculously bad, isn't it? But trust me, keep going with it, keep going with it. I promise you, you will be happy at the end. All right, now this area right here is kind of clogged up with some different colors, so let's try to straighten that out just a little bit. Take some clean water and just activate those colors a little bit with the water, and see how it pulled out all of those lines that were there? That's very pretty. Now I'm going to dry it and add some pretty color there again. I'm going to put my favorite blue on top of this once it's all dry. That's going to look lovely. So I'm going to take my paintbrush and dip it back into the number 63, and this is that really, really pretty turquoise kind of bluish color, which I just love. Now, I was not very careful with my paintbrush there, and when I took it out of the paint, some dripped down into my field here. No big deal, just take the edge of a paper towel and scoop that right up. Not a big deal at all. So we'll fix that right away there. All right, so let's go ahead and dry this area. All right, now I want to work over here just a little bit. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that red again so we don't lose that fun reddish pink color in our sky. I'm going to take that and I'm just switching brushes just because this is a clean brush where I'm just sort of getting rid of some of those harsh lines because I don't want to lose this light blue that's here. And we want to make this horizon line a little bit less jagged, if you will. Just make it a little bit more smooth. There we go. We are getting close to done, I think, guys. The last sort of step in the sky part is going to be scary, I think. It was for me when I first started this technique, but we're going to get into our black. And we are going to scribble black all around this scene. Isn't that crazy? But trust me, it's going to really, really, really make a difference. So number 20 is your black. You're going to take your paintbrush and you're just going to scribble, 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 scribble that black. Keep going back, get lots of black paint. Just scribble it like kind of maybe in between colors. There's no right or wrong place, wherever you want. Scribble it. Again, don't lose the color that you've already laid down. You're just kind of adding it between colors, around the outside, maybe a little bit on the horizon line here. You're just kind of moving it around. And then we're going to dry this and take the other colors that we've already done and blend it together so it doesn't look so ridiculous. Now, I have seen other card makers do this so much quicker than I do, and their results are absolutely amazing. For me, this is what works for me. I really want it to look good, and so kind of going back into the colors and playing around with the colors and going back over to really get bright, beautiful colors. It looks great in my opinion. So that's why I really do this a little bit slower, which is going to result in a rather lengthy video, and I apologize for that, but I really just kind of wanted to show you guys how I do it, just in case you like the technique that I use. And it's really, technique, quite frankly, is not the right word. There's no technique in this whatsoever. I'm honestly just piling color on top of color and blending it together. And it is definitely taken me a while to learn how to work with watercolors. I have never worked with watercolors before. I started doing it for card making. I never watercolored as a hobby before this. So for me, this has all been learning on my own as I go. And so if I can help just one crafter out there, it's worth it because this is such a fun technique. So all I'm doing is going back to the original colors I had laid down and blending in this black into that color so it's not such a stark contrast between the black and the purple or the red or this lighter blue. And a good way you could also do this is take your clean water brush and blend it together. Clean paintbrush that's coated in water and blend it together that way as well. I just like adding more of the different colors on because, like I said, it really gives you that amazing oomph. I mean, you can get these colors so bright it almost looks like markers instead of just watercolors. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful in my opinion. So I'm going to go back into my green. My green got a little bit swallowed up here, didn't it, when I put that black on? No big deal. I'm just going to put a little more green on. No problem. And it's darker now and definitely more vibrant and more dramatic, I would say. So I love that. So you can go back and just layer color on top of color. I always thought you could only do that with like acrylic paints or oil paints, but nope, you can do it with watercolor too, which I have learned in just playing around with these, and it is so much fun. I'm gonna put a little bit more red here, and bring that over. And now this last purple here is number 38. We just want to kind of get some more of that to darken it, make it more vibrant and blend it out. And then we want to go back to the first blue we put down, which is number 56, and just kind of use that along the bottom here. And let's go ahead and blend this, or dry this rather, and see what we've got. This is looking lovely, really, really pretty. So as I said, if you just trust yourself and play around, keep layering the color in between drying on top of color, add some black, you are going to fall in love with this technique, I promise. Now you do not need these fancy watercolors. These really aren't fancy, but you don't need to spend a lot of money on watercolors to do this technique. You can use cheap watercolors from a craft store if you want. You don't have to get these, although like I said, they are on sale right now for rather inexpensive, $26 on Amazon for the 36 pack. So that's a pretty good price. Now I'm going to go back up and just sort of redo my horizon line just a little bit with the green because it was looking a little dark from the sky colors that we put in. And then I'm going to take some of that lighter color again, which is the number 55, and blend it with this, and then just kind of leave that lighter color at the bottom. And that's looking really, really pretty. I'm going to dry this really well along the bottom here. And I see one place I want to kind of fix at the top. So while I'm drying this, I'm going to point out right here, it's gotten a little bit muddied, if you will. It doesn't quite look as pretty as I'd like. So I'm going to fix that one corner in just a moment here. And again, when I do my videos, I could edit this down quite easily and just kind of quickly paint and show you the finished product, but I really don't want to do that because I really want to show you the whole process. And I know that makes for a long video and it might be a little bit boring, and I'm so sorry for that. And you know, if it is, I'm sorry. You know, I have some shorter videos and that kind of thing, but I know so many of you have messaged me and what have you, really wanting to try this, but kind of, you know, nervous to do it. So I thought if I showed the whole thing, start to finish, it might make you a little bit more comfortable to give it a try. So that's kind of the method behind my madness here in not editing this and just kind of going with it. So I'm going to just go back in with just a little bit more of this darker green, which is number 56, for the top of my little hill here, and kind of clean that off, and then go back in with number 55 and just lighten that bottom a little bit and leave some super light at the bottom. All right, just dry this really well and we are almost done, guys, I promise. I'm just going to dry this, and this needs to be dried really good. I didn't expect to have to go back and fix it. That's why I did the grass kind of first. Because I want to put that shadow in for the animals. So let me dry this as best I can. We really only need this middle part dry, so let me focus on that. All right, there we go. So that's done. Now let me take, and this smaller brush does kind of come in handy for this little shadow that I'm going to do. I know I'm going to put the animals right in the middle. So I'm going to take my dark blue color here, which is number 67. And I'm just going to swoosh it back and forth like so. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. And I didn't think I got enough paint. Let me just get a little bit more paint on my brush. There we go. There we go. You just want to make it kind of big enough so that both animals will fit and it really looks like a little shadow coming down. Now the final part, I'm just going to grab an inexpensive brush, and we are going to dip it in the white paint that comes in this paint kit here. And we're going to use this to create our stars. Now there's several different ways you can do this. You can grab an acrylic block and glob a whole bunch of the paint on the acrylic block, and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just, and this palette unfortunately is off camera, but so I have a lot of paint from my brush that I've put onto the block, and then you just take your brush and you go whoop, and you can see the stars, the white flecks kind of showing up on the page there. I'll do it again. There you go. Another way to do it is you just use the brush alone, dip it in that white paint, get the brush fairly loaded with white paint, take your finger and just dab it against your finger, and tap it against your finger rather, and there you go, there's some stars. Now, I accidentally got a couple that dripped from my brush onto my grass. No big deal. Take your paper towel, kind of blot that up. Like I said, these watercolors are very, very forgiving. And then I would take my little brush here and just go back in with a little bit of the green and fix that right up. There you go. It never happened, because we can cover it right up and fix it. So, but definitely be careful when you're doing your stars. And I do recommend waiting till the end, till it's dry, to do the stars. Often I would put a little protector sheet down over the land, which would just be a scrap of paper, kind of shaped like the little hill. But I didn't think to do that before I came on camera, so that's why you don't see that here today. But that is a pretty good idea. That would then alleviate any of this trouble. All right, so there we have it, guys. So just let me just kind of pull this up, and I would definitely put more stars, but it's already been such a long video that I'm not going to do that now. I would kind of fill the whole sky with stars. So that's what we just did in real time on camera. Here is the finished card. As you can see, I put a lot more stars, and then of course added my little guys. The sentiments from the same stamp set. I heat embossed it in white embossing powder on a black little piece of cardstock. I added just a few sequins and then put it on a black kind of backing, and then it's on a normal A2 size card. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you'll give this Northern Lights type of Starry Night background a try. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and making it through this long video with me, and I hope that you'll give this a try. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.